IT IT perspective, um, and IT security perspective as well. Also, because as Praise mentioned, I'm currently the Global Digital and AI Adoption Coordinator at OP Mobility. So I usually have this perspective or bring this perspective during my trainings and all. Also, in terms of my scope, I'll be focusing on Microsoft 365 Copilot as an AI tool, as AI tool we'll be looking at today. And in line with my background or what I do, many big companies or corporate companies use Microsoft, and this is basically Microsoft's AI tool that is integrated into your work, into your professional, your daily profession, your daily professional work. Okay, so this is also the first time well, I'm presenting on this platform, so I hope it will probably not be the last. And I think my connection should be good, but if at any time you lose me during the session, just put a comment in the chat, and I'll try to maybe repeat myself on the same topic. So without further delay, let's continue. I'm going to be talking about the learning objectives for today. But before I show you what I have, can you kindly put in the chat what your own objective or expectation for this session is? Like by the end of this session, what would you expect to have learned? Can you just put maybe a word, a sentence, something in the chat? I hope I'm in the good chat. How to start using Microsoft 365 Copilot. Thank you, Praise. Any other expectations? Okay, I think we can work with that, and let's continue. Let's move on to the learning objectives for today. And these objectives cover what I will be showing you today, and also what Chinaza will be showing you today as well. So one of the first learning objective would be to understand how LLMs work. And well, AI in general, and what generative AI is in general. Then we'll be talking about as well how to structure a prompt effectively, and how to make sure that this prompt generates the kinds of responses that you actually want. And the final thing, the final objective for today would be to recognize and avoid prompt pitfalls. So areas where you will not be able to to avoid common prompt pitfalls, to make sure that you're writing the right prompts in order to get your desired results. So these are the learning objectives for today. I hope they're fine for you. Now let's move on to the table of content today. So we'll start with a quick welcome and icebreaker. So this is already the welcome. So we'll just do a bit of icebreaker questions. And this is just to allow me understand, or allow us, the presenters, understand your level or your area of your level of comfort or confidence with using AI, so that we know if they're complete beginners or people that are probably in the middle beginners or late beginners. So this is just to allow us have an idea of the kind of people that we have in the audience. Then we would go on to explain, or I'll go on to explain what generative AI is and how LLMs work. Then we'll get to the crux of the matter, which is Microsoft 365 Copilot. And then we'll move on to prompting, and I'll finish with the tips. Then I'll hand over to Chinaza, who will be focusing on prompting, but within the chat GTP space. So the difference between both of us basically is I'm focusing more within the corporate setting and the corporate professional setting, in particular with the Microsoft 365 Copilot, and while Chinaza will be focusing on chat GPT, so prompting within chat GPT. So let's start already. So this area, this part is just to check your confidence level and your experience with AI in general. So how many people in the audience already maybe use AI or have maybe started using AI? If you can know it and not necessarily use it, and you can, well, that, and you can also put the AI tools that you actually use. So I'm also hoping that this session will be interactive. So please don't hesitate to put your questions or your comments and all of that in the chat. Okay, Tiffany uses ChatGPT. We'll be talking about that today. ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Copilot. Okay, great. There's somebody who uses Copilot. Google Gemini. Yeah, I can see. Okay, great. Okay, well, I have people in the audience who know a bit or two about what we're talking about. So, on a scale of 1 to 5, how confident would you say you are using these AI tools? One being the least confident, and five being, well, the most confident. Okay, five, I can see. Praise at one, three. Okay, all right. So I think good. I can see four. Okay, so well, whatever level you are on, I hope you really are able to learn and get away with something today, even if it's just one thing. So let's move on to what generative AI is and how LLMs work. And during when I'm explaining, I'll just quickly touch on why it's maybe important to know that or to understand this aspect. So, what is generative AI? So, this is basically AI that generates things. It's quite explanatory in its name. It's generative AI, so it's AI that generates content. So now AI can generate different kinds of content. So you're talking about text, you're talking about images, you're talking about audio, you're talking about code, you're talking about different kinds of content. So generative AI as a whole helps you generate new content, and that's why its name is it's implicit in its name. And you can think of generative AI as a big umbrella in which you find what is called large language models. So large language models are simply a type of generative AI that focuses on language. Again, you can find the clue in its name, large language models. So what is interesting about language models is that it allows you, or rather, it understands text, and it's able to provide answers um, in text form. And it's examples of LLMs are GPT, which powers Copilot, and Chat GPT, which we will be looking at today. And it's basically like the brain behind the AI that allows you, that responds to your questions. So that is what an LLM is. And how does it work, or how does it produce the answers that it does? It has essentially been trained with loads of data of text, and then so when you ask it questions, what essentially happens is that it guesses what the next word is, which is a bit interesting, I would say. And why is it important for you to know this? It's important for you to know this so that you always remember to verify the responses that you get from AI, because you've probably heard about AI hallucinations and all. So that happens because it literally guesses the word. So it's important for you to understand how it works so that you understand that you need to verify, and that at the back, it's not necessarily just magic. It's, well, technology, and it processes your questions to be able to give you responses. And the way you pose your questions, which Chinaza will be talking about more in details, would determine the kinds of responses that you get. Now that we've seen what generative AI is and how LLMs work, let's move on now to Microsoft 365 Copilots. Now, as I already said, some of you in the audience have already used it. And as I already said, I'm focusing more on the professional part and how you use AI within your work environment. And Microsoft 365 Copilot's chat um, is is just what you would call your AI assistant for work. It's pretty much the phrase that Microsoft has given to this tool, your AI assistant for work. And what you should also remember is that whenever you're using AI, you need to remember that you are the one in charge. You're the pilot, and Copilot as your AI assistant is really just there to help you achieve what it is that you want to achieve. It's just supposed to help you with your tasks. So you need to remember that you're the one in charge. You shouldn't let it do your entire work. You're supposed to guide it, and it's really just supposed to help you with your productivity and all. So one thing uh, Microsoft likes to do with their products is it likes to change the names of its products a lot, and sometimes it's honestly very confusing. So in the next slide, what I'm going to do here, what I'm going to focus on here is talk about the difference between Microsoft Copilot Chat Work and Microsoft Copilot Chat Web. I do a bit of demonstration to explain this this part just so you understand the difference. And this might be for people who work well in big corporates. This might not be something that you understand or that you know already, or if it is, then kudos to you. Well, so when you're talking about Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat, there's what you call the work version, which usually requires an additional license, and it's what you call Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat, but for the web. So the difference between these two things is the web one is based on public data. So it's based on public web data, while the work part is literally connected to your own work document, and you also have Copilot integrated in all of the Microsoft 365 applications. So you have it connected to or integrated in Outlook. It's integrated in Word, PowerPoint, and basically all the applications that you have within the Microsoft 365 universe. So here I've just put a table to kind of like summarize the different uh, features between the two tools. So on the left, you have the web Copilot chat. So this is connected to the public web data, as I mentioned already. Um, and you can ask simple questions and ask it to summarize things and all of that. It's from an IT security perspective, it's recommended that you use this Copilot chat if it's approved or if it's launched, activated in your organization, compared to Chat GPT, because with Copilot chat, there's something called enterprise data protection that Microsoft adds to this particular tool, and the idea is it's supposed to prevent data loss. So here, when you have Copilot chat within your organization, there is little to no risk of having your data lost. But if you're taking sensitive data, especially if you're working with sensitive data to ChatGPT, well, it's not something from an IT security perspective, it's not something that's recommended. So in terms of practicality, so this is what the two interfaces look like. So if you do not have the license for the work, you'd simply not see the tab at the top. I'm going to show you practically what this looks like, and this is just a difference. I'd share my screen to show you what I'm talking about. So this is the Microsoft 365 Copilot homepage, and here at the top you can see a toggle. So when you want to ask questions to Copilot based on web data, you select the web toggle, you turn that toggle on. However, when you want to ask Copilot questions about your own document, even your own meetings, your own emails, Copilot is connected to that data and you can ask it questions about that. But to do that, you need to switch to the work part. And then you can ask it questions about even your colleagues, and you'll be able to find the data as long as you have access to it. So this is essentially the difference between Microsoft Copilot Chat, the web version, and Microsoft Copilot Work, the work version. In addition to this, you can also ask it to include web data in the responses from the work part. So here you can see this three dots. When you click on it, you can see this web content. There's a toggle here as well, and then you can turn it on or off. When it's on, it will include web content in its responses. When it's off, it would only base its responses on your work document. So that is the important difference. Now let's go back to our slide. So here we've seen the difference between Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat and the work and web. So in general, you can use Microsoft Copilot to summarize your meetings. You can use it to summarize your documents. You can use it for data analysis, say in Excel, for example, for those people that might be might be doing data analysis. And you can also use it for email management. So imagine like you have an assistant that you can just tell, okay, write me a draft to reply to this message right within the actual application itself. So it's very convenient. You don't have to like copy paste to another application. Typically, the context in which you're working is already there and understood by Copilot. So those are the interesting things in using Microsoft 365 Copilot for work. Now that we've seen that, let's move on to prompting. Now, what are prompts? Prompts are how you ask generative AI to do something for you, like creating, summarizing, editing, or transforming. So if you remember when the internet first came out and or rather became more popular, and then Google was in vogue, or I mean Google is still in vogue anyway, but when Google was new, and you had to search the internet or browse, when you went to Google, you had to use what we call keywords. So in the search tab, you type in your keyword and it will give you responses. So we're using generative AI. It's a bit different. It's not just keywords that you'd use. You have to put in what we call a prompt. And then depending on your keyword, you get relevant results here. Depending on how good your prompt is, then you get the relevant result. So we've talked a bit about what prompts are. So I guess the next question would be, how do I write the right prompt? How do I create the right prompt in order to get what it is that I want? So here, this prompt framework is something that's proposed by Microsoft. And since we're looking at Microsoft 365 Copilot, it's only ideal that we're looking or we're using Microsoft's prescribed prompt framework. And then essentially it proposes 4 key ingredients when you're creating or writing your prompt. I know it might not necessarily be easy to be easy to always remember these 4 ingredients. So we'll be looking at tips later on, but if you can remember these 4 ingredients when you're or elements when you're writing your prompts, I can assure you, you definitely get better prompts. So what are these 4 key elements? So the first is the goal. The goal is basically the what you're asking Copilot to do, the kind of what response you want Copilot to do. And typically, when you're talking about the goal, you're always starting with a verb. So here in this example, it says generate. So it can be generate, it can be provide, it can be summarize, you can be give me. So it's usually a verb. So you're asking Copilot to do something. Then next, it says generate 3 to 5 bullet points. Here I'm going to talk about uh, uh, maybe format or length, and then you can always play around with these parameters in terms of how you're creating your prompt. So here it says generate 3 to 5 bullet points. So you can say you can play around with the length, basically in terms of the goal or the results that you want. Next, we're talking about context. So you need to sort of like explain to your generative AI, the generative AI tool you're using, or here in this case, Copilot, why you need what it is that you need. So for in this example, for example, you're talking about a meeting with a particular person. Um, a very simple example can be telling Copilot to generate restaurant suggestions. But imagine you were vegetarian. The context in this example would be telling Copilot that you're vegetarian, so that the responses it gives you would be restaurants that are vegetarian. So that's about context. Then next, we're talking about source. So if you remember, I said Microsoft 365 Copilot is connected to your work data. So in terms of documents, in terms of emails, you can tell it to check a particular source. And here you're playing around with timeline. Next, you have expectations. You can also play around with things like tone, with things like language. So you can say, write it in creative language. You can also say, make it professional, or casual, or creative, or engaging. So these are just some parameters that you can play around with when you're trying to write your prompt. Which brings us to our prompting exercise. So here I have an example for you. I'm going to paste this prompt in the chat so you can maybe do it or test it on your own or by yourself later on. These prompts are focused on the automotive industry because I do work in automotive industry. You can adapt it to fit your own specific case. So if you work in hospitality industry, you can just play around with it. You can see the color codes for the different key ingredients with the prompt. So you can literally just play around with it to see the different kinds of results you get. So if I take this first prompt, for example, I'm going to use the web part. So I basically have this generic kind of answer. If I use the second prompt, then I have something that's more detailed, more specific. So, for example, I'm talking about creating a 1,200 word report. So that's length, that's specificity for stakeholders in the automotive sector. That is about context. Source, focus on topics such as electric vehicle adoption. So that's where I'm telling it to focus on. And expectations, I've asked it to include data driven insights. So I can put that prompt here, and you'd see it's more specific in terms of the response that it gives. So I told you to focus on electric vehicle adoption, and I have that here, while I obviously would not have that here. So another thing you should also look out for are the sources that it adds to the results. So if you remember, I said verify the content that or the results that it gives you, the response. Always verify it to make sure it's correct. If you're working in data analysis, for example, as well, it's always important for you to verify the calculations it gives you. But here, in terms of say responses for the different questions that it gives you, you have the sources. You typically have the sources at the bottom, so you can, and also here within the responses, so you can always see where it has gotten the particular response it has given you. And oh, I'm not sharing my screen. I'm not sharing the right screen. I'm sorry. Just a moment. So this is what I was talking about. So this was the first prompt, and this was the result, and this is the second prompt, and these are the results. So you can see here that it's included electric vehicle adoption. So these are the sources that I was talking about. So at the end, you can always verify link. So at the end, you can see the different sources um, where it has gotten its information from. So you can always check it to get more details. But it's always important for you to verify the responses. So let's go back to our presentation. So yes, you can test these two prompts on your own and by yourself, which brings us to, we're almost done, which brings us to the tips that I'd like to share with you in terms of prompting. So the first thing I would say when you're prompting is that you should try to think of prompting as having a conversation. So the first response it gives you might not be the right one. You should always continue. You can iterate, ask it again, and go back and forth. Be prepared to go back and forth until you get the final response that you want, that suits you. Also, when you're using Microsoft 365 Copilot, you should also make sure that you understand the limitations of that particular tool. So, in terms of data limits, in terms of word limits, and so on and so forth. So it's not, it's basically not magic. And it definitely has limits. So, for example, when you're summarizing a particular document, um, the recommended limit for a Word document is about 80,000 words. Above that, your summary is not going to be good. It's going to leave out a lot of information. Also, in terms of the type of question you ask it in terms of summary. So, for example, you can ask it to summarize the entire Word document, or you can even ask it to summarize a particular topic within the document. And these two scenarios would get you different results. That's important to note. Also, always verify the generated content. This is something that I repeat over and over and over and over and over again. AI makes mistakes. So it's very important for you to always check um, the response or the result it has given you. Also, provide examples. If you have specific examples that you say you write, for example, you're a writer and you want it to sort of like take your tone or voice, you can provide these examples of your past work for it to copy your tone of voice and present or generate content in your type of tone. You can ask it to generate something in the tone of, say, Chimamanda or another writer that you actually like. So when you provide it with examples, it's able to sort of like copy that style and give you better responses. Also, break down the task into blocks. Like I said, it's like having a conversation. So it's better not to dump down too much information at once. It's better to break down the task into blocks. So, for example, if you want the summary of an entire document, you can break it down into working blocks and say, okay, summarize from page 1 to page, I don't know, 10. And when it does that, you go on or continue to the end of your document. Say if you have maybe what, like 50 pages, you can, I mean, it takes more time, but you get better responses. And then finally, ask for 3 variations. You can also ask it to give you three variations. If you use Word, if you use Word uh, uh, with Copilot, it does that for you automatically, and so that's just an example or a tip that you can employ when you're using or when you're prompting in Microsoft 365 Copilot. And be rest assured as well, these tips are things that you can use not just when you're using Microsoft 365 Copilot, but when you're using generative AI in general. So, well, this brings me to the end of my own presentation. I'm going to check the chat to see if there are any questions for me, and then I will hand over to Chinaza. So, are there any questions?
Thank you so much, Adora. I have questions on my own,
Okay.
but I don't know about
Yes.
others. But I was wondering, do you want us to take the questions now? Because he's also going to talk
Okay, we
about
can.
chat GPT,
Okay.
and then
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe we can consolidate all our questions together
All the
because they might
questions
actually
together.
be linked to
True.
each other.
Together.
And
Okay, that's fine.
yeah,
Okay, so well,
okay.
thank you. I'm going to hand over now to Chinaza to present his part. Then we'll look at the questions at the end.
Okay. So guys, if you have your questions, please write them down. And if you think you might forget, you can put it on the chat. You can put your questions and you can direct them to anybody you would want to. If you want Adora to answer your question or you want Chinada to answer your question, you can also direct your question that way. I hope that helps us. Okay, so now we're going to be hearing from Chinaza. Uh, okay, sorry, just want to unpin Adora. Okay. Hi, Chinaza. How are you?
Hi everyone. Um,
So,
Good
if you want,
morning.
I
Let me
could just
share.
run through your profile a bit, or you want to just jump right in?
Uh, okay, that's all right. That's all right. Yeah.
Okay, so I can do that.
Yeah, you can go ahead. Yeah. While I
Okay,
share my screen. Yeah.
okay. Okay, guys. Chinaza is the founder of nazAi, and he has a lot of experience with. Okay, so I'm just going to read a little bit for us so that we can see. I think I already put some of his profile information in the flyer for the event. So I'm just going to get us familiarized again with who Chinaza is. Chinaza Imala, he's a professional focused on blending data-driven decision-making with strategic thinking to deliver meaningful results across industries. He's the founder of nazAi Edge, and nazAi Edge is an AI company that provides real-time adaptive training services to working professionals. So he does this for a living, teaching people on how to adapt and use AI in the professional setting and to increase productivity and efficiency at work. So he's going to be taking us through this workshop focused on ChatGPT. Adora has already introduced us to LLM and taught us about prompting, how to organize our prompts. And Chinaza is going to be taking us deeper into AI, focusing on ChatGPT, I believe. Right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So stay tuned, and if you have any questions, please don't forget to write them down, or you can leave them in the chat. And at the end, we would Chinaza and Adora will be answering our questions together as a team. So thank you, everyone, and stay tuned.
All right. Thank you very much, Praisel. Can everyone hear me loud and clear? I want to make sure my voice is well projected.
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Adora, for your wonderful presentation. Yeah. And thanks, Praisel, once again for the introduction. I'll be continuing this presentation by talking about effective prompt writing within the context of an AI system, one of many AI systems called ChatGPT. I believe we've all, if not all, but most of all, have heard used it at some point. Yeah, so can everyone see my slide? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, just to make
Yes,
okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay, all right, great. Okay, great. All right, so why does prompt writing matter? As we all know, AI tools are becoming increasingly integral to our daily work and lives. And understanding how to use these tools effectively is becoming more and more of a valuable skill that we must acquire. As Adora has touched upon in her presentation, the quality of AI outputs directly depends on the quality of our input, right? So I mean, she was talking about what a prompt is. So that's pretty much what we mean by the input within the context of generative AI, and in this case, we'll be looking at ChatGPT. And we can also unlock AI's full potential as well and save tons of time, really, by well-crafted prompts. So we want to make sure that we optimize our time in order to be more productive and efficient. And also really to improve the quality of AI responses. So pretty much our desired outcome that we seek to achieve. We also want to avoid frustration and subpar results, really, because that's what poor prompts causes, right? Because if we're not specific, as we're looking at shortly, with our prompts, it could lead to unnecessary waste of time and suboptimal results. All right, now let's look at two types of prompts here. So a vague prompt and specific prompt, right? So a vague prompt, for example, would be, tell me about Paris, right? So it's a vague prompt because the user might have an underlying reason for wanting to make this inquiry that is not reflected in the prompt. So so what happens is, like, it gives a generic information. It has an unpredictable focus and may require follow-up clarification, right? Because as we'll see shortly, when we input vague prompts, the AI system would ask for more questions to be able to find out like what exactly we're looking for, right? So, but that is unnecessary, if we are very specific, with our prompts. While a specific prompt, for example, would be, for example, summarize the history of Paris in 3 bullet points, right? So this portrays, or it reflects much more the user intent behind the input, and as a result, it's more focused, providing relevant information and a clear structure in the output generated. All right, so now let's look at the intro. Let's look at the prompt framework, a four-part framework within the context of ChatGPT. Really, this framework can be used for any other AI system, but this was made for ChatGPT. All right, so first of all, we look at the goal, which is the first part of the framework. So what do you want the AI to do, right? And then we look at the return format. How do you want the response to be structured? And then we look at the warnings, constraints and limitations. So like, perhaps information that you want to exclude from the output, from the results, which would help to improve the quality of the response and also, save us tons of time. And then we look at the context dump, where we provide additional helpful information, more contextual details, in order to improve, to be better aligned with the user intent. So really, this framework helps us to organize prompts in a clear, consistent way that improves AI responses that align with our desired outcome. So it's very important that we follow this framework in order to communicate more effectively with AI systems, in order to improve the quality of our results. All right, now let's look at some examples within the context of the four-part framework. So a polystructured prompt would be, for example, find a hike near Paris, right? So I'll just do a quick demo here. Find a hike near Paris. So please let me know if you can see whatever screen I'm sharing and all that, so that I make sure that we are all on the same page. Okay, so let's look at this example. Find a hike near Paris. So this is a polystructured prompt. Okay. So can everyone see my screen?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Okay. So a polystructured prompt, for example, is find a hike near Paris. So let's look at the results. It's still loading. And it also takes when the prompt is polystructured, it also takes more time to generate the response compared to when it's more specific. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Okay, so here is the result. So it gives us a map here, and we have the hikes near Paris, as we can see here. Okay, but now let's now provide a well-structured prompt within the four parts prompt framework. Okay, so this is, yeah. So this is a well-structured prompt. So find lesser known medium length hikes near Paris, right? So this is the goal part of the framework. And then we have exclude famous hikes near Fontainebleau's popular circuits. So this is the warning part of the framework, right? Which provides factors in constraints and limitations. And then we have provide results in the table with the following columns: name, location, duration, difficulty. So this is the return format part of the framework. And then we have my wife and I love scenic hikes and want something unique. So now let's look at this. And we'll see the difference. So you see, this was actually quicker. If we notice, this was actually quicker than the previous polystructured prompt because it's more specific. So we see the results, provides the result in a tabular format. We have the name of the hikes near Paris. We have the location, we have duration and difficulty, right? So it's more organized, you know. So yeah. So I hope that is clear. And then let's move on. Okay, so as we've just looked at, so the four-part prompt framework, you know, takes into consideration the goal, the return format, the warnings, and the context dump. Okay, so now let's look at some activities that we can explore in order to buttress this point. I would do this example, planning a weekend trip, while we can look at the other examples, you know, perhaps now or later during our free time. So let's look at this, this topic, planning a weekend trip. Okay. Okay, good. All right. Okay, so let's say let's begin with the polystructured prompt, for example. I want to plan a weekend trip. for my friend's birthday. I want to plan a weekend trip for my friend's birthday. Okay, let's do this. Okay, so you see, it's the generated output is asking for clarifying details and questions, right? Where are you located? How many people are going, right? So this is a polystructured prompt, and we need not waste our time polystructuring our prompt when we can be more specific. So now let's now provide a well-structured prompt within the four-part prompt framework. Okay, I want to plan a weekend trip for my friends. So now let's be more specific now. For my friends, for example, 30th birthday, okay? Exclude evenings, okay? My friend loves nature, okay? And then provide results in a tabular format, showing location, city, tourist attraction, and yeah. So let's just for the sake of demonstration, let's do this. So I want to plan a weekend trip for my friend's 30th birthday. So this is the goal part of the framework, the four-part prompt framework, right? Exclude evenings is the warning part of the prompt framework, right? So this is the constraint and limitation that we want to factor in, right? And then we have the context dump, which provides additional helpful information and contextual details. And then finally, we have the return formats, right? Provide results in a tabular format showing location, city, tourist attraction. All right, so let's do this. So we can see how this goes straight to the point and providing the results as we want it. Location, city, tourist attraction. You see the locations, you see the city or area, and you see the tourist attractions, right? So we see how much time we save by being more specific, following the four-part prompt framework, and also the quality of the response, right? So it's very important to follow this framework so that it's better aligned with the user intent. All right, so let's move on. And yeah, we can explore the other topics during our free time. All right, now let's look at common prompt pitfalls. One issue, for example, is a prompt being too vague, right? Tell me about Italy, for example. We can improve on this prompt by specifying what aspects of Italy interest us, right? So is it the history, is it the cuisine, is it travel destinations, is it the people, right? So yeah, we put ourselves in a position to get exactly or close to what we are looking for by being more specific. And another issue is being too broad, right? For example, if we say, give me a full itinerary for a Europe trip, right? So this is too broad. So we can improve on this by, for example, including the time frame, the countries of interest and preferences, and other details that could help speed up the response of the AI system. As we see, it can also affect the speed and also improve the quality of the output. Another issue is conflicting requirements. For example, if we say, make it short, we'll look at an example to explain this clearer shortly. For example, we say, make it short. If we add to the prompt, saying, make it short, but include lots of details, it pretty much contains conflicting requirements. So the way to overcome this challenge would mean that, yeah, we were not able to save time in getting exactly what we want, and also we're not able to get the level of quality of information that we need, right? So the way to overcome this is by prioritizing what's most important, right? Or specifying the word count. So this really makes it more pointed, more specific to what we want, so as to be better aligned with our intent. Okay, and the other issue is missing structure. As we've been discussing, we must include, is recommended to include the 4-part prompt framework. All right, refining our prompt, right? I'm going to be showing us an example. We've looked at the importance of specifying an objective and desired outcome. We've also looked at the framework following the from 4-part prompt framework for consistent results. But later on, shortly, I'll be showing us an example of how we can break complex requests into multiple prompts, and also the importance of reviewing prompt for clarity before submitting. All right, so we've already looked at this. This just provides some additional information. So yeah, as we said earlier, this prompt with this vague prompt lacks specificity. So, but we can improve on it by, for example, provide an overview of Italy's major tourist attractions and best times to visit them, right? So that's just an example of how we can improve upon the earlier vague prompt, okay? And then, yeah, as we've said earlier, this broad prompts doesn't provide constraints on duration, budget, interest, countries to visit, for example. But we can improve on it, for example, by saying, create a 10-day itinerary for first-time visitors to France and Italy with a focus on historical sites and local cuisine, blah, 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 right? So more specific and, yeah, better aligned with user intent. Yeah, the reason why this is important, because when we ask questions, right, we don't necessarily always the user intent or our desired outcome is not necessarily reflected in the prompts that we impute, right? So as much as possible, we should communicate with AI systems like we're talking to human beings, really, because there's no way that an AI system can know what we were thinking, right? So yeah, so it's very important to take this into consideration. Okay, then we look, as we've seen earlier, the completing instructions, right? So it contains contradictory requirements that cannot be satisfied simultaneously. And the way we can improve upon this is by providing, for example, by saying, provide a concise 100-word summary of the key points, followed by more detailed explanation with more specific examples. So let's quickly do a demo on this. So let's say the vague prompt is, let me see. Okay, the vague prompt would be, as we've seen, would be, tell me about Italy, right? So let's do this. Tell me about Italy. Okay. So tell me about Italy. So our basic facts, why it's famous, cool cities, cultural vibes, so yes. So this is a vague prompt, but if you want to be more specific, and while following the 4-part prompt framework, we can do impute instead something like this. It provides an overview of Italy's major tourist attractions and best times to visit them, right? So let's follow the 4-part prompt framework. So let's say exclude small cities. My friend my friend is looking to visit during winter. Provide results in a in bullet points. Let's just say for example's sake, let's still use the tabular format. Provide results in a tabular format, okay? And then let's say make it let's say provide, what did we look at? Hold on a second. Yeah. Provide a concise 100-word summary of the key points. Followed by a more detailed explanation with specific examples. Okay. All right. So provide an overview of Italy's major tourist attractions and best time to visit them. So this is the goal. Part of the framework. Exclude small cities. So this is the warning part of the framework. My friend is looking to visit during winter. So this is the context that it provides, which is what did we look at again? The framework. Yeah, the context dump. Yeah, that's the context dump. And then provide result in tabular format is the return format. And then provide concise 100-word summary of the key point, followed by a more detailed explanation with specific examples. So now so instead of saying make it short but including a lot of details, so this is a better way to improve the quality of the response in order to avoid conflicting requirements. Okay, so let's run this. Okay, so we see the response. Yeah, compared to the previous one. So we see, yeah, it's more organized. City, attractions, best time to visit, winter highlights, fewer crowds, festive Christmas lights, Vatican Mass, blah, blah, blah. Right, so 100-word summary. Italy's top cities remain compelling in winter, offering few crowds. So detailed breakdown, Rome. So this gives a detailed breakdown. Yeah, so we see the difference between the between both prompts. Yeah, one was vague and the other one was more specific, following the 4-part prompt framework while avoiding conflicting instructions in order to improve the quality of the response. All right. So one more thing I would like us to quickly look at. Yes, I'll just quickly show us how we can break complex requests into, first of all, I'll show us how to how we can break complex requests into multiple prompts, and then I'll show us how we can make sure that our prompt is clear before submitting. So first of all, let's look at how we can break complex requests into multiple prompts. So let's say our initial prompt is create a business plan for a fitness tracking app, right? We add create a logo. Let's do write a business plan, rather. Write a business plan for fitness tracking and create a logo and build a and build a Bumble-like, let's say, just for the sake of demo, a Bumble-like web app, for example, right? Write a business plan for a fitness tracking app, create a logo, and build a Bumble-like web app. So let's run this. Right, so we have executive summary, problem statement, solution, target markets, features, monetization, go-to-market strategy, quantitative analysis, team, funding requirements, milestones, logo creation. Still loading. Okay, so we can see it's taking a very long time to complete. So yeah, which kind of buttresses the point I want to highlight here. So now let's provide let's now break down this complex prompt into this complex request into smaller manageable parts instead. So it's still loading, you see. So let's break it down into smaller manageable parts. So say, for example, let's begin with can you help me with a can you help me write a business plan for a fitness tracking app? Okay, so let's start with this first. Can you help me write a business plan for a fitness tracking app? Okay, now, so then we'll answer yes. Okay, and then we provide all the information requested: app name, the main unique value proposition, unique value of the app, target audience, blah, 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 right? Okay, so let's say boss, app name boss, to keep unique value proposition, unique value proposition to keep, to improve, this is just for example sake really, to improve fitness of millennials. Yeah, target audience. Yes. in a fun way. In a fun way. On target audience millennials. Key features. Key features. Key features. Yeah, I just hit step tracking. Okay. Monetization strategy. I just say freemium. Okay, what else? And then stage. Let's just say stage of development. Idea. Okay, so now let's look at this. Okay, so this is it. So the goal of this, demo is to show us the benefit of breaking down complex requests into smaller manageable parts. So, all right, so we have all of this, financial plan, okay. So yeah, so now let's do, now finally, can you draft a simple homepage layout for, so let's now do the follow-up. The next prompt will be draft a simple homepage layout for the app. Draft a simple homepage layout for the app. So actually, ChatGPT is not the best AI system to do things like this, like images or like a web layout and all of that, right? So there are other AI systems that are better suited for that, right? But this is just pretty much just to show us how breaking down complex requests into smaller manageable parts is yeah, makes us better able to understand and yeah, process what we're trying to do. Yeah. So ChatGPT is not usually the go-to tool for this. You have other AI systems for this, but anyways, I just wanted to just show us an example of how we can break down complex requests into smaller manageable parts. So if we say, for example, we also say, let's say, logo, show me, provide logo ideas. Provide logo ideas. It's still loading. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, it's still loading. ChatGPT is not better suited for this. So anyways, I just hopefully we get the idea of not overloading prompts. So really it's to avoid overloading prompts and rather break it down into smaller manageable parts. All right. So now let's look at how we can review our prompt for clarity before submitting. I'll just cancel this. Okay, so how can we review our prompts for clarity before submitting? Let's say we want to make our bio better, right? Whatever is about. Let's say project manager with 10 years experience in Fortune 500 companies in Fortune 500 companies. Okay. Yeah. So let's say, we say, for example, if we say, for example, make it better, right? Make it better. So we want to make this bio better. Okay. So, but we can improve on this prompt by being more specific, right? So we can say instead, and say review, rewrite this to sound more professional and highlight experience in project management, right? Okay, so write this to sound more professional and highlight experience in project management. So keep in mind, this is just for demo sake to show us the importance of improving the clarity of our prompt, before submitting, right? But normally, we should follow the 4-part from prompt framework, but I'll just do this just for the sake of time. We write this to sound more professional and highlight experience in project management. Project management retains experience in 500 companies. Okay, so let's do this. Okay. Accomplished project manager with 10 years of extensive experience overseeing and reviewing complex projects for the 500 companies, right? So we see the difference between these two. Experienced project manager with a decade of experience leading high impact projects for driving operational excellence and blah, 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 right? Yeah. So what this makes it clearer, we highlighted, we included in our prompts for it to sound more professional and highlight experience in project management, right? So anyways, so this is just really to show us the need for us to improve the clarity of our prompt. So instead of saying, make it better, right? So just something casual like this can chip away at the quality of our AI, the AI response. So yeah, so this is an example of how we can be more specific with what we're looking to achieve or what we're looking to expect in the AI responses. All right, so So let's do a recap. So a key takeaway. So Adora has presented on the fundamentals of large language models and how they process information. We've also looked at the prompt structure within the context of Copilot and also ChatGPT. And within the context of ChatGPT, we looked at the four-part prompt framework, which includes the goal, the return format, the warnings, and the context dump. We also looked at why clarity matters, the importance of being clear and specific when crafting prompts in order to get the most accurate responses. And finally, we looked at how we can avoid pitfalls, right, when writing prompts in order to overcome and how to overcome the challenges that come with writing poorly structured prompts and with the use of different examples. All right, so before the Q&A session, I would like to play some informational videos, if that's okay by the moderator. Okay.
Hi, Chinaza, please go ahead.
Okay, all right. Please let us know if we can see the screen. And we can hear.
We can see, but I can't hear anything yet.
Yeah, same for me. Same for me.
Okay.
I can see but I can't hear. So maybe.
Okay. That's okay. I guess we'll just yeah, we can just look at it. Yeah. I don't know why.
Maybe you have to disconnect your headphones, probably.
Or
Oh,
share the
really?
sound as well.
Hold on. Can you hear now?
No.
No.
Yeah. I don't know why it's not working. Yeah. But yeah, I guess we can just watch it. Yeah.
Job automation.
Okay, so I'll play the next video. So let's look at this.
There's also no sound.
Okay, but you can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't know why, honestly. Yeah. Okay. Let's look at the third one. Yeah. I'll just play that again because I know it was too fast. So I'll play that again. Hold on. Say it again.
And let's move
That's
on
for
to the
the...
last one, please.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think this is the one that just played.
One more time.
All right.
Okay, all right, that's it. All right, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Chinaza. Thank you, Adora, for taking out the time today to walk us through the beginner's introduction to AI using the large language models, ChatGPT, and Microsoft 365 Pilot. I have a few questions here from the chat. Someone is asking, apart from prompting, because there's this whole craze about AI and it's the future, it's the future. So apart from prompting, what are the uses that the impact that AI can have on future jobs?
Chinaza, would you like to answer that, or do you want to let me answer that?
Sorry, can you repeat that again? Sorry.
Would you
Apart
let me
from,
answer that?
No,
I
no,
think
sorry, I mean the question. Yeah,
the
the
question.
question. Yeah.
So
Okay.
basically, I'm just going to rephrase the question I have here. It's the question is basically saying, like, apart from having to ask questions and getting answers to your questions, how is AI, the whole craze on AI being the future? How is AI actually going to be the future? How is it going to impact future jobs?
Okay, yeah, that's a very good question. Recently, I think sometime this year, the World Economic Forum released the 2025 Future of Jobs report. And one thing that really stood out to me in the report was that the kind of jobs that have been most negatively impacted by AI is jobs that are administrative in nature, like clerical, basic accounting job, because pretty much AI can adequately handle all of such tasks, right? And then jobs that are creative and analytical in nature, right? Like data analysts, software developers are enhanced by AI, right? But not yet replaced, right? So I mean, not yet is the operative word, because I mean the job landscape as far as AI is concerned is fast evolving, right? So yeah, we don't know where things are headed, but at the moment, jobs that require creative and analytical thinking, like data analysts, software developers, and all that are enhanced by AI, but not yet replaced. And then jobs that cannot be replaced by AI are jobs that require emotional intelligence, manual skills. Like, for example, you have like plumbers, carpenters, for example. And then you also have people within who are social workers. For example, teachers. These jobs require emotional intelligence, people-centric skills, and in the case of the jobs that require manual skills like plumbers, carpenters, this job require physical dexterity. So this is pretty much what things are looking like as far as AI impact on the future of jobs is concerned. So I don't know if that helps or if that answers the question. Please let me know if it doesn't.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay,
Adora, do
if I
you
could.
have anything? Okay, yeah, go on.
Yes, I'd like to just add something. So I'm going to use a framework of self, team, and organization. So again, I'm coming from a professional or organizational perspective. So in terms of personal self productivity, then that is also something that would impact on the team. So imagine that an entire team is using AI or has AI tools or within their workflows. So that's also going to add in terms of business value. Then on the organizational level as well. So how is productivity improving, or how much is the company saving money and all of that. To talk a bit about what Chinaza said in terms of the kinds of jobs, or on what skills would maybe be more interesting with AI. It would be people would need to think more critically, because AI can now do all of those things. So, well, basically, apart from prompting in terms of AI, something that is also that you might have also probably heard about agents, and it would be in terms of automating tasks for repetitive or manual tasks. So using AI agents would replace this, and in general, this would improve productivity and business value for organizations.
Thank you. Thank you for your response. We have a hand raised. I think that's Tekena.
Yes, it's me. Uh,
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. And
Hi, good afternoon.
thank you very much for the presentation and taking out time. Yes, I'm coming from a data analyst perspective, kind of, and uh, Chinaza and Adora actually talked about being able to actually break the chunk of your charts into bits. And I have been trying to I've been using it actually in the context of my research and all, and for some prompts. But I noticed that when you try to make it interactive, there's a particular point it gets to when it tells you that you need to start a new chat. I don't know if so. Anytime you get to that point now, that means you would have to like start afresh again. So that continuity now might not is not there's a break in flow. So I don't know how can someone that is prompting the AI be able to overcome that aspect. And secondly, the when you prompt Copilot and GPT for certain requests, the same thing. There's always a difference in. I've noted that there's always a difference. There's always a difference in the responses, which sometimes it gets me like, okay, why is it like that? Well, we all know that it can't be the same. And thirdly, sorry, my questions are kind of much. This third one is it possible for you to train your AI to think like me or the person that using? Can you train it continuously that okay, so that anytime you want to use the AI, it actually knows that okay, it actually knows how you think and it will work continuously that way, except or you have to like do it every time when you start your prompts. And I also noticed that a friend of mine used the paid version, and I noticed that also it's not he used the paid version sometimes for his work, and I noticed that there's a difference between the paid version and the unpaid one. So if you are able to work with these prompts and from all what you've said now, if you are able to follow these steps now, do we actually still need to use it or get the paid ones to work with? That if you can work effectively like this, the paid ones still going to be necessary. Yeah. So I think that's the questions I have for now. Sorry, I hope they're not too much. I just express myself. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tekena. Those are very, very loaded questions. Chinaza, would you like to go first? Or
Sure. Yeah, sure. For the first question, is if I remember correctly, you say the problem that you continue to encounter is the AI system telling you to continue in a new chat, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So
Okay.
there's
I
a break in
think,
flow.
yeah. Okay. I think I know the reason why. If I think the reason is because you're using the free version, not the paid version.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the reason why. So usually when you're using the free version, you only have like there's only a limited amount of I don't know, limited amount of time that you can use the AI system to, achieve whatever you're looking to, to achieve, right? But if you're using the paid version, you wouldn't think so. Usually when you use the free version, for example, it will say, oh, um, like something along the lines of, that's all that you can do for today. You can try again, I don't know, by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, something like that, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then you see something like new chats. All right. So yeah, so usually when you now try to continue to impute whatever you're trying to ask the AI system, you won't, yeah, it wouldn't work, right? So you have to like be patient and wait till you're able to begin until your ability to use the AI system refreshes. Usually, like it happens like within several hours or within a 24-hour span, yeah, and all that, right? So I think that is the issue that you encounter. Yeah, I don't know if that helps or if it's clear. Yes. But definitely with the paid version, you would not encounter that challenge for sure. Yeah. They're trying to get you to pay for the
Exactly.
yeah, so that's why, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Okay, I was going to ask you what AI tool you were using, because just like Chinaza said, yes, it's with ChatGPT, it's essentially with the paid version versus the free version. And I have the paid version, so I don't have the limit. However, with Copilot, initially, there was a limit of 30 conversations when you're having, rather 30 turns when you're having a conversation. It will ask you to start a new one. But I think now, and also because of all of the evolutions that happen, there's a lot of technological advancement very quickly. So that's no longer the case anymore. So I think that was about the limitation part. But yes, it's really always a good practice to always break down your content, your prompting into blocks of tasks. Then next, the second question I think was about was it the
Training on AI,
AI?
training your AI to think like me.
Okay,
Yeah.
so one of the things I talked about was tips. One of the tips I talked about prompting or using AI in general was giving it examples. So in this kind of case, you can give it examples of say your previous work to be able to have that's your same kind of tone or style in writing that you have. These days as well, there are also different kinds of AI that help you create what is called a digital twin. So you can have a digital twin in terms of person. You can have it. See, if you're talking about an organization as well, and say a manufacturing, you can also sort of like have a digital twin that replicates the exact workflow of the systems. But then essentially, yes, it is possible to be able to feed AI things that you've done or of your own work for it to be able to produce the same kinds of things that you've done. Because even now, the responses that AI gives you is because of what it has been trained on. So you have to just give it things, the particular kind of things that you want it to produce to be trained on, so it can give you the kind of something that's connected or related to you or relevant to you. I don't know, Chinaza, if you have something to add to that.
Yeah, I think it's you've said it all. And make sure that whatever you want to train the AI on is consistent in the chat, right? Like like you don't mix it up with other
Okay.
other topics.
Other prompts.
Yes. So make sure it's consistent, right? So if you want to train AI on topic A, create a separate chat on that,
Okay.
right? Feed it the relevant information and context and all of that, right? And so whenever you want to, get any desired response based on topic A, make sure you go to the chat of topic A. If you want to train the AI on topic B, create a separate chat for topic B. And so don't mix topic A and topic B up.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's just to add to what Dora said. And I think the other question was that you don't understand why Copilot's response is different from ChatGPT.
Yes,
is it that was
exactly.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, it's I I would say it's, I believe it's because they are not necessarily I believe it's because they're not necessarily trained on this same exact kind of data. Yeah, for example, I discovered that Grok, which is another AI system, or trains part of the data that is trained on is Twitter X. You
Okay.
know, yeah. So I wouldn't say the same. Now I don't know if ChatGPT, for example, trains on data from X. I don't know, right? But I would imagine that the X, or formerly Twitter, would have easier access to data from X than ChatGPT. I would imagine. Now, I'm not very sure, but yeah, I believe that is part of the reason. And also, these are also different AI systems, right? So they don't necessarily they're not necessarily trained in the same, probably not necessarily trained in the same way, because there are different AI, things like ChatGPT. You have, Grok, for example, and yeah. So the Copilot on and ChatGPT is, I guess that's the one that I'm not very sure about, given because Copilot is trained on I'm sorry, the model, the LLM for Copilot is pretty much the same LLM for ChatGPT, right? So I'm not sure why it differs, but I would imagine that is the way that the data is trained, for these different AI systems, not necessarily in the same way. So that is what I believe is the reason, right? So yeah, there are probably other reasons to it, but that's what I believe is I would say part of the reason, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay. If I might also add to that, to be honest, Tekken, I've also tested this as well, because I'm supposed to be training people with Copilot, and sometimes I literally have to use ChatGPT for the same prompts. I tested too, and I do get better responses with ChatGPT. But just like Chinaza said, I think one is based on the data in terms of how much extensive data that ChatGPT was trained with versus Copilot. And for me specifically, I'm using Copilot within an organizational context. So it also depends again on what the settings of the organization might be. I'm not sure if that's your case, where you're talking about co-pilots, personal co-pilots, or co-pilots within an organizational context. But for me, that is, in my experience, that is what I would say might be like a limiting thing for Copilot versus ChatGPT, and I guess the data on which it has been trained on.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right, because there are actually sometimes that I use one AI system, to to get some work. When I want to use an AI system to get a work done, and it doesn't give me what I'm trying to get, right. And whereas when I try another AI system, it actually gives me exactly what I want, right. So it all boils down to the quality of the data, or the kind of data that the AI system is trained on. At least that is part of the reason. So, but yeah, so that's it.
And I think it also depends on the task as well, because sometimes I use Claude, and the responses from Claude in terms of how more humane it is better than ChatGPT. So I think
Yeah.
different AI
That's very
tools
true
are
too.
better for
That's very
different
true.
kinds of tasks. So you just need
Yes,
to sort of like
that's
decide
right.
which task do I want
Yes,
to
yes,
do, and which
exactly.
AI tool is best for it.
Exactly. Cloud is, yeah,
Yeah,
cloud is
yeah,
human, can have a human feeling
Yeah,
too. It's true.
yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
exactly.
that's right. Yeah.
Thank you
Okay.
very much. Much appreciated.
All right.
Thanks for your question, Tekena. You also have Jay in the comments who gave a bit of responses.
Responses, yeah.
So yeah, you can also look through
Thank you,
that.
Jay.
So yeah, we're coming to the end. I just have a few more questions here. Someone sent a message saying, if you feed the AI your original thoughts and your original information, don't you lose that to the internet? Whatever you feed to the AI, does it become public property, a property of the internet?
So I think this is what I was talking about in terms of IT security. And also, first of all, what I would say is as much as possible, no matter how much it promises, no matter how much it promises the security and all, try not to share sensitive data, even on ChatGPT and all. But I also discovered that within ChatGPT, there's the option under settings whether to allow I think, well, OpenAI, the developers train the model with the data that you put in it. So it's important for you to turn this off. I think that's what is also part of making your data private. But at the basis, do not try as much as possible not to share sensitive data. So this is one of the benefits of using, I would say, Copilot, especially like within your work setting, because it supposedly promises the commercial data protection part. So it's basically simply says your data is protected from data loss. Yeah, so that's my comment.
The other thing that I would like to also add to that is yeah, like instead of you can mask the sensitive data by providing like similar, examples or context, for example, like if it's information that you don't want to be in public domain, you can mask it by saying, providing some similar information or some other example, without putting out the specific information in the input, right? So that's another strategy, right? So as much as possible, it's important to not put out sensitive data. ChatGPT has it has a temporary chat. So it says that with the temporary chat, your data would not be trained upon and all of that, right? So, but hopefully we can trust, them. But but yeah, I would just say as much as possible to not put out sensitive information that we would not want in the public domain. So yeah, it's a very tricky one actually. Yeah.
Okay, thank you guys. And lastly, I have here someone asking if you can use AI to make a CV. If you can use AI to translate your CV from English to French.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can. You just provide that as an input.
And because I
Yeah,
think that falls under sensitive information or not, your CV, can you just
it
upload it and
it
ask it to
it
translate your CV to French?
yeah. So I mean, that's a good question. For example, my CV is in public domain, right? So I guess it doesn't matter much to me. Like, I consider, so it depends, right? It depends on the individual, right? Yeah, for me personally, I don't necessarily consider my CV sensitive information. Maybe for
Okay.
others they do. But yeah, so my profile and all of that. For example, I have a LinkedIn profile,
Putting yourself out there. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm already out there in public domain. So it doesn't really matter much to me, but it might matter to others. So, and that's also something to keep in mind. So in order to be able to tackle that, you could decide to provide similar information to your CV, as an input without specifying the exact details of your CV, in the
Okay.
input. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you guys so much. Adora, do you have anything to add before we close this session?
I would just say one of the things that I said during my presentation with AI responses, please just always verify the response once you have it, because as much as it will help you in being more productive, if the data or if the result or response you're working with is wrong, it's literally multiplies the hard work or the work you need to do instead of helping you become more productive or saving time. That's what I would say.
Thank you. So everyone, Adora and Chinaza are both available on the FON France platform if you need to reach out to them for specific help. If you need help on a personal level or on a professional level, feel free to reach out to Adora and Chinaza on the FON platform, and I'm sure they would be happy to hear from you. Hi, Augusta, we see you. So thank you guys so much for taking out the time to be here. Jay is saying he would need to volunteer his experience. Okay, so Jay is also available. Is your name on the FON platform, Jay? So that people can find you. Okay, his name is Jay. So if you need to reach out to any of them, I know Chinaza does this for a living with his company. So if you need to help your company or do something very professional, in terms of maybe a paid service. I don't know if Adora does this on a personal level, on a paid service also. But yeah, feel free to reach out to them and talk to them and hear what they have to say with your questions. And this is just like a beginner's course. So if you want in-depth, if you want more information, if you want to go further, down the rabbit hole, feel free to reach out to them, and I'm sure they'll be happy to speak with you and see what services or help they can offer. So thank you guys for taking out the time on your very busy Saturday to, train us on the beginner's introduction to AI. And thank you everyone for participating. We have some people who have already left, but I think in total we were about 25 people who logged in at some point. So thank you guys, and I wish you a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone. And yes, I will be
Bye.
sending the video recording
Thank you.
later
Bye.
on.
Yeah.
Bye.
And
Yeah,
the
bye.
presentation as
Yes,
well.
and the
Okay,
presentations.
all right.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah.